recording this because I need you to know something. I spent 40 years collecting things I never used. And now I'm dying. And all I can think about is that damn garage full of motorcycles I was too scared to ride. My name is Bob Johnson. I'm 65 years old and I have maybe 3 weeks left. Stage 4 lung cancer. The doctor stopped sugarcoating it last Tuesday. But that's not why I'm sitting here, struggling to breathe talking to this camera. I'm here because of what happened yesterday. Something that broke my heart and opened my eyes at the same time. You see that Harley behind me? That beautiful 1969 Sportster, mint condition, original paint, chrome that still shines like a mirror. I bought her in 1985, paid cash $3,200. I remember that number because I had to work double shifts at the construction site for 2 months to afford it. My wife Sarah, she was 6 months pregnant with Tommy then, and money was tight, real tight. But I saw that bike in the dealer window, and something just clicked. I'd worked construction my whole adult life, hard work, honest work. But every day, driving past that Harley dealership, I'd slow down just to look at those machines. Freedom on 2 wheels, you know? The open road calling. Sarah wasn't thrilled when I brought it home. She was practical, always was. Bob, she said, hands on her pregnant belly. When are you gonna ride that thing? And I said what I always said back then. Soon, honey, real soon. 38 years. 38 years, I said soon. Every Saturday morning, without fail, I'd go to that garage. I had a routine. Polish the chrome until it gleamed. Check the tire pressure, never need a tear because those tires never touch pavement. Change the oil religiously, even though that engine barely had 50 miles on it total. 50 miles in 38 years. Tommy would come out to the garage, maybe 8 or 9 years old, curious about what Dad was always doing out there. Can we go for a ride, Dad? He'd ask, eyes wide with excitement. And every single time, I'd ruffle his hair and say, not today, son. This bike's too special, too valuable. We ride when you're older, when the weather's perfect, when I have more time. Time. That's funny, isn't it? I thought I had all the time in the world. The bike collection grew over the years. That Sportster was just the beginning. A 1972 chopper, a 1980 lowrider, a pristine 1965 Electroglide that I found at an estate sale. Original owner had died, never rode it much either. Funny how that works. 7 motorcycles total. All of them perfect, all of them waiting for some day. I'd spend hours in that garage, not riding, just maintaining, preserving. I convinced myself I was protecting investments. These were classic bikes, appreciating in value. I was being responsible, smart. But deep down, if I'm being honest, and I guess there's no point in lying now, deep down, I was scared. Scared of scratching that perfect paint job on gravel. Scared of getting caught in the rain and dealing with water spots on the chrome. Scared of some drunk driver taking me out on the highway. Scared of living instead of just existing. The cancer started with a cough. Just a little cough that wouldn't go away. Sarah nagged me to see the doctor for months. It's nothing, I tell her, just us from the job site. Even after I retired, I kept saying it was nothing. Stubborn old fool. By the time I finally went to see Dr. Martinez, the cancer had spread to my lymph nodes, then my liver, then my bones. Funny thing about time. When you think you have forever, you waste it. When you find out you don't, suddenly every minute feels precious. The treatments were rough. Chemotherapy that made me sicker than I'd ever been in my life. Radiation that burned my chest. Pain medication that made me foggy and confused. But through it all, I'd still drag myself to that garage on good days. Still polish those bikes. Still maintain that collection of dreams I never lived. Last week I couldn't make it to the garage anymore. The cancer in my spine had progressed too far. Tommy had to wheel me out there in a wheelchair, and we just sat looking at all those motorcycles. 7 beautiful machines, all pristine, all useless. That's when Tommy said something that just destroyed me. He looked at all those bikes, then looked at me and said, "Dad, you know what I used to think when I was a kid? I used to think you loved these motorcycles more than you loved me." Can you imagine hearing that? Your own son, your only child, thinking that his father loved machines more than family. But you know what the worst part was? For a moment, I wonder if maybe he was right. I didn't love those bikes because they were beautiful, though they were. I loved the idea of them, the potential, the fantasy that someday, when everything was perfect, when I wasn't so tired from work, when Tommy was older, when Sarah wasn't worried about money, when the weather was just right, someday we'd fire up those engines and ride off into the sunset, father and son, wind in our hair, no destination in mind, just living in the moment. But someday never came. There was always another excuse, another reason to wait. The bikes were too valuable to risk. Tommy was too young, then too busy with school, then too busy with his own life. I was too tired, too stressed, too worried about this or that. Tommy's 38 now, married to a wonderful woman named Lisa. They have 2 kids, my grandchildren, Emma and little Bobby, named after me. Those kids have heard stories about Grandpa's motorcycle collection their whole lives. They've seen the bikes, always from a distance, always with warnings not to touch. 3 days ago, Tommy did something that surprised me. He came over while Sarah was at the grocery store and he asked for the keys to the Sportster, just like that. "Dad," he said, "I want to start her up." I almost said no. 38 years of habit, you know. Protect the investment, keep it perfect. But then I looked at his face and I saw that same 8-year-old boy who just wanted to go for a ride with his dad. And I realized, what was I protecting it for? So I gave him the keys. Tommy rolled that Sportster out of the garage for the first time since 1985. He checked the fluids, primed the engine, and then he kicked her over. After 38 years of silence, that beautiful machine roared to life. The sound was incredible, pure, raw, powerful. The whole neighborhood came out to see what was happening. Mrs. Peterson from next door, she hadn't heard a Harley in our driveway since Reagan was president. The sound echoed of the houses and for a moment, everything felt possible again. Tommy climbed on, adjusted the mirrors and gave me a look I'll never forget. He was crying. This grown man, this father of 2, and he was crying like that 8-year-old boy who just wanted to ride with his dad. He took off down the street, slowly at first, then with more confidence. I watched him disappear around the corner, and all I could think was, that's what it was supposed to sound like. That's what it was supposed to feel like. He came back 20 minutes later, huge grin on his face, tears still in his eyes. He pulled into the driveway, shut off the engine and said, that felt like freedom, pure freedom. And you know what I realized in that moment? I had given him something after all. Not the rides I never took him on, not the adventures we never had, but something else. I gave him the chance to experience that freedom for both of us. Tommy's going to ride that Sportster to my funeral next week. Sarah thinks it's what I would have wanted, and she's right. He's going to lead the procession, and all those people who knew me will hear that Harley one last time. But this time it won't be sitting silent in a garage. It'll be living, breathing, doing what it was made to do. The other bikes? Tommy's keeping the 65 electric light for little Bobby when he's old enough. The rest he's selling. Dad, he said, these bikes need to be ridden, not preserved. They need to live. He's right. I spent 40 years preserving things instead of living with them. I was so afraid of damaging something valuable that I forgot the most valuable thing of all, time with the people you love. If you are watching this and you have something you're saving for someday, a special bottle of wine, a fancy dress you've never worn, a car you never drive, dreams you keep putting off, please, don't do what I did. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for someday, because someday might never come. And all you'll have left is a garage full of perfect things that never lived, and a son who spent his childhood thinking motorcycles were more important than he was. Use the good china, wear the expensive dress, take the trip, make the memories, because in the end, it's not what you preserve that matters, it's what you experienced. The Harley sounds beautiful when it runs. I just wish I had learned that 38 years ago.